Welcome to the Solimi Dreams channel. Gently turn off the lights in your room, slip on your headphones or set the volume just right and close your eyes. I hope sleep finds you peacefully, perhaps even before the story comes to an end. So now, without delay, let me softly begin tonight's story. The 13th floor. Everyone at Marlowe & Co. knew the stories. They said the office building had a 13th floor, but it didn't appear on the elevators. The buttons jumped from 12 to 14, a tiny, almost imperceptible gap where something didn't fit quite right. Some said it was superstition, standard practice in old skyscrapers. Others whispered about things far worse. According to the legend, the 13th floor still existed, hidden, unseen, and sometimes if you stayed late enough, if the building was empty and the lights flickered just so, you could find yourself there. You wouldn't mean to. You wouldn't know until it was too late. Emily Tran had heard it all before. She was a junior associate at Marlowe & Co., drowning under mountains of paperwork and impossible deadlines. She didn't believe in ghost stories. She believed in late nights, bad coffee, and corporate indifference. So when her team lead, exhausted and barely awake, told her she had to finish the quarterly report by morning, Emily nodded and stayed behind while the rest of the office emptied out. It was nearly midnight when she realized the printer down the hall had jammed. Again, cursing under her breath, she grabbed the stack of papers and stalked toward the printer room at the end of the 12th floor corridor. Her heels echoed on the polished tile, unnervingly loud in the empty space. That was when she noticed the door. It hadn't been there before. A plain metal door, unmarked, set into the far wall, just past the supply closet. Emily paused, frowning. Maybe it had always been there, unnoticed in her blur of caffeine and deadlines. She reached out automatically and stopped. The air around the door was colder, noticeably colder. The handle was old, tarnished. A small brass plaque above it was so scratched it was barely legible. Still, Emily could make out the words, 13th floor. She laughed nervously to herself. Some maintenance access, maybe. But curiosity, that dangerous and human impulse, gnawed at her. Before she could second guess, Emily pulled the door open. The hallway beyond was narrow, dimly lit by a flickering overhead bulb. It didn't match the clean corporate sterility of the rest of the building. The carpet was a faded red, threadbare in places, and the walls were yellowed with age. She stepped through. The door closed behind her with a heavy final sound. Emily turned back instantly, grasping the handle, but there was no handle on this side. Just smooth, cold metal. Heart pounding faster, she turned and walked down the hallway, trying to convince herself this was some strange, employee-only area. Maybe old storage. Maybe an unused wing. But there were doors. Dozens of them. Office doors with frosted glass panels and brass nameplates. She squinted at one. Thomas Whitmore, Vice President, Client Relations. She had never heard of him. And the style, the furniture glimpsed through the glass was ancient. Heavy oak desks, typewriters, green-shaded lamps. Nothing modern. The silence pressed against her ears, thick and stifling. Emily moved quickly, trying to find an exit, but the hallway twisted and branched in impossible ways. Corridors that should have ended in walls stretched further, doubling back on themselves. She found herself in front of an elevator, but the call buttons were dark, dead. A low hum filled the air. Not mechanical, almost a vibration, like a voice pitched too low to hear. She backed away and bumped into someone. Emily whirled around, heart hammering. It was a man, tall, gaunt, wearing a gray suit decades out of style. His face was wrong, blurred, shifting subtly under the dim lights. His mouth was fixed in a rictus smile that didn't touch his eyes. "You're not supposed to be here," he said, voice thin and metallic. I'm sorry," Emily stammered, stepping back. "I got lost. I'll just—" The man's smile widened grotesquely. "No one leaves the 13th floor once they've entered." Others emerged from the doorways now. Men and women in outdated clothing, their features wrong, their bodies twitching as if held together by strings. Their eyes were black pits. The corridor behind her twisted again, lengthening, stretching impossibly far. Emily ran. Doors slammed shut as she passed. Lights flickered violently, casting long, misshapen shadows on the walls. The air grew colder with every step, her breath misting in front of her. In her panic, she stumbled into a stairwell. The stairs spiraled downward into darkness. She hesitated for only a second before plunging down, the metal steps clanging beneath her. She didn't look back. She couldn't. Something was following her. She could hear the dry scrape of many hands skittering along the walls. She could feel the cold breath of things that had forgotten how to be human. After what felt like an eternity, Emily burst through a door and into another hallway. But this one was different. It was pristine, white walls, polished floors, normal. Relief flooded her until she noticed the number stenciled onto the wall. 13. The humming grew louder. Lights buzzed and flared above her. She wasn't out. She was deeper in. Desperation clawed at her mind. She ran again, ignoring the strange pull at her vision that made the walls seem to melt and reform. Ahead, a figure stood in the hallway, a woman in a pencil skirt and blouse, her hair pulled into a tight bun. Emily slowed. "Please help me," she gasped. The woman turned. Her face was a perfect mask, literally. A smooth, featureless mask where human features should have been. 2 small slits for eyes, a slit for a mouth, from which a deep sucking sound emerged. Emily screamed and fled, feet slipping on the polished floor. The walls seemed to close in around her. Voices whispered from the offices she passed. "Stay with us. You belong here now. The work never ends." Her lungs burned. She stumbled, catching herself against a door, and it swung open. Inside was a conference room, enormous, far larger than the building should have allowed. A massive table stretched endlessly into the mist. Figures sat around it, hundreds of them, hunched and twitching, their suits rotting, their papers yellow and crumbling. At the head of the table sat a figure larger than the rest. Its face was a blank void, a hole where features should be, and from that emptiness came the humming. It turned its faceless head toward her, a single bony hand stretched out, beckoning. Emily backed away, but hands seized her from behind, cold, inhuman hands that dragged her into the room. The door slammed shut and the light snapped off. In the blackness, the humming grew deafening, vibrating through her skull. Her mind frayed at the edges, unraveling like old thread. When she awoke, she was sitting at the conference table. A paper sat before her, a fountain pen gripped tightly in her stiff, aching hand. She looked down. It was a contract. Her name was already signed at the bottom. The humming subsided into a whisper. Work never ends. The figures around her turned their hollow faces toward her, welcoming her with silent, endless smiles. Somewhere deep beneath the shining towers of the city, the 13th floor waited patiently for its next employee. And Emily, trapped forever in its endless bureaucracy of the damned, bent her head and began to work. I hope you've already drifted off into a peaceful sleep. If not, I truly hope the upcoming stories on my channel will help you get there. If you enjoyed this one, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I'd be so happy if you liked and shared this video with your friends. It means a lot and gives me the encouragement to keep creating more stories like this.